Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Okay, here we go. Hey, I'm Scott Fairchild. I'm here at Podcast at the Lab. I got something exciting for you today. We're going to interview one of my dear special friends. He's been friends with us for years. I tell people sometimes he's kind of like my adopted son. I really love him and Justine and what they've done. And I wanted to bring him in today just so we could talk to him for a little bit. You know, on our website, let me just read it for you. One of the values that we have on our website is we're a church as big as the world. Life isn't separated by our differences. Life is enriched and enhanced by our differences. And so I want to talk to Justin about that a little bit, because really it's like, okay, I know we're the same color, but you can see, let me see, there's tats, and there's like, I actually have one tat, but I'm not going to tell you about that. But I have one tattoo. You've got all kinds of tats. I came from a farm. You came from as far away from a farm as you could possibly be. There's so many differences that we have, but we've recognized that the differences have really done something in our relationship, and really the relationships of the people that are at church, at Crossroad, in the lab. Our differences really enhance who we are. So I want to talk about that a little bit, and you've got just really an interesting testimony. You pretty rough background. Really rough background. So let me just start. So I talked about I was raised on a farm. It's like, okay, but you were raised far from a farm, and so you tell me a little bit about it. You grew up in
Lancaster. Palmdale. Okay. It's called the Antelope Valley.
Okay, and so tell me about that, because you talk about, it's like you really, from the time of 12, you've been kind of on your own, right?
Yeah, I started using drugs at the age of 12 years old. You know, and I moved out of my parents' house when I was 12, and I've lived on my own since then.
When you say moved out, or did they just say, see ya?
Okay, me and my dad never really got along, because he didn't want to be a part of my life.
Okay.
I've forgiven him, though, but he told me, we got into an argument, and he told me when I was 12, as long as he can keep getting welfare money for me, then I can leave the house. And he didn't want me there anyway, so I moved out, and I started doing things to make money, still going to school, and I got my first apartment when I was 14, and I haven't never went back. I've been living on my own since then.
Okay, so now when you say you started out and you started making money, you made money kind of, you were kind of an entrepreneur at 12 years old, but it's like not really.
I mean, I started, I used to spin signs in the corner. That was my first job. I spun signs in the corner for KB Home, but I was also, living on my own, because I started injecting heroin at 12, and it had me around some people that they weren't the best influence, so sure. I started selling drugs, and I started doing things that got me in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and a lot of trouble. Like when was the first time you were arrested?
12 years old. 12? Yeah, I got arrested at 12 years old for I'm trying to be very blunt, because you're only as free as your testimony. So I got arrested. I had a something on my waistband. It was a gun, but I wasn't doing anything with it. I was 12, and I hung out older people. So I had it, and I was just standing outside of his house, and the cops came by and just stopped us, and they just arrested me while I was out there, and I got detained and took to the police station.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're 12 years old, 14 years old, you got your first apartment. Was it by yourself, or was it just?
It was by myself, but it was in my brother's name. My half-brother's name was in his name, but it was by myself. 14
years old?
Yes, sir.
Wow. All right, so all through high school, you were doing drugs, you were shooting up, you were doing, and then you were still selling, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about, you ended up in let's fast forward a little bit. We'll fast forward to, you were in and out of jail, but I really want to get to this place called, really interesting place that we partner with, Dare You to Care. I want to fast forward to that place where you ended up with Dare You to Care. So tell me a little bit about maybe what led up to that, and then what we were talking about earlier. I think is a really cool thing.
All right, so just to talk about, I'll give you a little bit of background story about how I ended up at Dare You to Care. Well, like you said earlier, I was a skinhead.
Wait, no, let's back up. I forgot about that. So you ended up becoming a skinhead. How did that happen?
Because when I moved out when I was 12, I have 5 older brothers that are my blood brothers. And I I wasn't around them, because I was living on my own. So then I had some of my friends, and my friends' older brothers, they were all skinheads. So I ended up becoming a skinhead.
So it was just kind of like, you got, how do you say it? You just kind of got absorbed into it?
Yeah, it was like, I wasn't around my family. So they took me in and they helped me out, and they taught me how to sell drugs, and they taught me how to make money. I mean, they still made sure I went to school. They still, if I needed money to go out and buy clothes for sports, because I play basketball, they would buy my clothes. If I needed money for food, they would make sure I ate. They would pick me up and drive me to school. They helped me get my first car. So it's like, I looked at them as my family.
Wow.
So yeah, that's how I became a skinhead.
So you're ended up being a skinhead, and so now you're down here in LA then at this point. Okay, and you're arrested again.
Yeah, okay, so now to get to the dairy care part, like I said, I was a skinhead, okay, and I was still selling drugs this was back in 2013. I was still selling drugs, okay, and I got arrested because someone owed me money, so I got into a fight with him. I got arrested and went to jail. I got bailed out. And then another person owed me money. So I got into a fight again, got arrested, and got bailed out.
So more than got out, you turned around and went right back in.
Turned around right back in. Well, then the third time.
So it's kind of an anger issue, huh?
Yeah, that too, okay. But the third time, right, I was trying to bail out again. They said no. They said you're not getting bailed out. So then I'm there, I'm sitting in jail, and my mom, okay, my best friend's mom, which I call my mom, the mom that raised me, right, Renee, she went and tried to talk to my public defender, and the public defender said, no, he doesn't. Now he wants to try to say he has a drug problem. No, I'm not going to help him. He doesn't have a drug problem. He's just trying to get out and go to prison. Because mind you, that I already had 4 prison terms by this time, and I'm 23 years old at this time. Okay,
4 prison terms by the time you're 23. Okay.
Okay, so then sitting in the cell, and the public defender says no, and by this whole time I'm talking to my mom on the phone, and she got the families together because I knew the people that I got into a fight with, and took some things because they owed me money. And they went themselves with my mom to the DA and told the DA that, hey, he doesn't need to go back to prison. Prison hasn't rehabilitated him. Prison hasn't helped him. He has a drug problem, and the DA himself said, you know what, we'll give him help. So then the DA, I went into court, and instead of going my offer at the time, I would have got my second strike, and they were offering me 11 years in prison. Okay, and then the judge sentenced me to 10 years, 8 months, 85%, an extended suspended sentence. And okay, for people that don't know about programs, when you go to a program, there's a lot of people that do it still to this day. They'll go to a program and the program won't work for them, because there's multiple different programs, different kinds of programs, different styles. So a lot of people go there and they're able to leave, and they'll go back to court the next day, and the judge will put them in another program. They could just come up with a reason, say, hey, this wasn't working. I don't believe in this. So the judge told me specifically in writing that I had to sign. He said that I better not leave Delancey Street program. That was a program I was sentenced to, a 2-year program called Delancey Street. He said that if I leave there, he's not going to give me a chance like he gives other people. I'm going to go to prison and finish out the rest of my time because I've had too many chances. So I go back to county. I accepted the plea, and I'm waiting to get picked up for this 2-year program. And then 3 days later, and mind you, they said it takes up to 90 days to get picked up for a program.
So you're seeing a lot of miracles going on here.
A lot of miracles.
Okay,
right?
All right.
Because they said it takes 90 days. I was there for 3 days. Okay, and after I signed my deal, get picked up, right? I think I'm going to do 2 years in a program. So I'm there, get picked up, and then I'm in the van, and I hear the name of the program. It's called Dare You to Care Outreach Ministries.
Now, who picked you up?
Marcel Allen. He's the driver for Dare You to Care.
Okay.
Yeah, he picked me up, and he was driving me down to South Central Los Angeles. Okay, and I get there, and it's a predominantly black program. It's a Christian-based program, okay, in South Central Los Angeles. And I walk in the door, and Pastor Brett Anderson was his name. And I walk in there, and he said, are you a skinhead? Because he saw my tattoos. And I said, yeah. He said, all right, well, look, there's the door. You're not in handcuffs anymore. He said, if you want to leave, you can leave. I'll give you a 15-minute head start. You have to want this. So I ended up staying, wow. and within a couple weeks, Pastor Brett, he ended up being my counselor because he himself had been.
What color is he?
He's black.
Okay.
And he ended up.
So he comes right to the door and he says that to you. He says, "You're a skinhead." It's like, I know you're a skinhead. Yeah. You got the chance to run right now.
Yeah.
Justin, what prompted you to not run?
I wanted to. Like, to be honest.
You did. You wanted to run.
To be completely honest, to be 100% honest, the next day I did. The next day I got in the car, okay? I'm being honest. The next day I got in the car.
So you waited, and then the next day it's like, okay.
The next day, because he said he was going to give me a 15-minute head start. So the next day I called one of my friends, and they had us go to the GR office. So I called one of my friends, and they picked me up. And I was in the car driving on my way back to Lancaster, and Renee and my biological mom, Carol, they both called me, and they were both crying and begging me to go back because, like I said, I had that 10 years, 8 months, 85% hanging over my head.
Okay.
So they said, look, we don't care. We'll be down there and visit you every Saturday. We'll make sure you have food. You have to do this. So I went back. And it's crazy. I know this might not seem like a big miracle, but you know how the GR, I don't know if you know how the GR office or any county office, if you miss your appointment, if you miss your name being called, you can't get back there. You better come back. Right? Especially how packed they are. They called my name 3 times. I got back. The office closed at 5. I got back there at 3:45. Okay, and I went up to the desk, and the people in the back office, they came right out and pulled me right back in and gave me my card.
Wow.
So it's just like God was orchestrating little thing after little thing just to make it so I can be here. And it's crazy because, like I said, I was a skinhead, and never in a million years did I ever think this would happen, but God uses the most unlikely circumstances. He uses just things that you never, ever, ever, ever think would happen to bring you to Christ. I mean, think about God's humor. He brings skinhead, that doesn't get along with other races most of the time, and he brings them to a predominantly black program in South Central Los Angeles to come to know Christ and accept Christ through a black pastor.
I love this story, Justin. I mean, I've heard this story before, and every time I hear it, it's like, it just is so amazing. And it's so amazing. And just you even filling in some of those details of the miracles, the little miracles that happened, like all of the things that led you to that place. Yeah. And you'd said earlier, it's like, it kind of shows God's got a sense of humor. Yeah. And I do think he does. It's like, he said, well, it's almost like God just sits up there and says, hey, you think this is never going to happen? Yeah. Watch this. And he does these things. And it's like, and so you really are a testimony of that, as him, of the Lord just saying, watch this. Yeah. Okay. So you went through the program. You ended up going, it was supposed to be a 1-year program, right?
2-year program. Dare to Care is a 1-year program.
Okay. But you stayed in Dare to Care for how long?
I stayed in Dare to Care for like another 7 months after that.
After that?
Yes, after that. So I stayed a total of almost 19 months. That's where I met my beautiful wife at. Yeah. And that's another testimony. I believe that, because with my old life and everything, I believe that I believe that God knows me, and everything about me better than I know myself. So I truly believe that God put her in my life, to make me want to stay, to help me become closer to Christ, because just the way that how well she knows Christ and her relationship with Christ made me have a more eager desire to want to know Christ myself.
So she really kind of drew you. It's like, man, I want what she's got. I mean, that's kind of what's okay. So Justin, did you guys meet each other right away?
We met each other. I think I was there for about a month before I met her. Okay. And then to be completely blunt, I looked to the person next to me and I told her, I said, I'm going to marry that girl right there.
Did you really?
I swear.
Oh my gosh. Did you tell me that before?
I think I did, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. All right. So Justin, tell me about some of the transition, because you didn't, did you just like overnight go, yeah, I'm done with this whole skinhead thing?
No, not
Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, I remember, like you said earlier, I had anger problems, getting in a fight and going to jail all the time, right? Well, I remember being in the program and people, like you're in there with a lot of other people that have been out of jail, that and there's certain rules, that in that lifestyle that people live by, right? Well, one of them is name calling, and I remember all the time, like people would call me, like they would call me the B word or call me a punk or call me something, right? And I would get frustrated and I would react. And I can't even tell you how many fights I got into in Dare to Care. And Miss Hamilton, if you hear this, I love you and I'm sorry. I'm sure Miss Hamilton doesn't know about
We'll make sure she hears it.
I know she doesn't probably know about a lot of these things, but I got into a lot of fights, and it's crazy how I didn't get one write-up. Not one time the whole entire time I was there, because after 3 write-ups, you get kicked out. And people would call me out of my name, and I would react, and I would fight them. And I remember, it's so crazy. Like, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it. I was there, and I was living at one of the houses called 119, and this guy, he called me out of my name, and I remember standing there in the bedroom, and it's like I was a third person. I can't explain that. I remember sitting there, and I'm like, okay, Justin, if you react, what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Just let it go. Mm-hmm. And I just let it go, and I can honestly say from that day forward, like, I haven't had anger like that anymore. It's like God wanted me to learn something, and like I literally saw myself in a third person. And ever since that day, I realized that it doesn't matter what I react to. It doesn't matter what people call me. It matters what I react to. So people can call me whatever they want, but if it's not true, then why am I going to react to it? Why am I going to fight? It doesn't matter. I know who I am because of Christ.
Man, that's powerful. That's really good. Okay, so you ended up, you met your wife.
Yes.
You met Justine. You guys started hanging out together. Yes. You guys started coming to the church. I don't know what point you started coming to the church, because when you first came to the church, you weren't dating. You were, I mean, everybody, let's put it this way. It's like, they're not dating, but they definitely, the only 2 people in the room that didn't know that you liked each other was okay. But anyway, so you started coming to the church, right?
Yes.
And then, and our church is like, one of the things that's so amazing about really our church is it really truly, we talk about Revelation 7, it's every tribe and language and people and nation, and it really truly is. I mean, it's just a mishmash of all kinds of people, all kinds of ethnicities, all kinds of backgrounds. I mean, I used to tell people, it's like we had everybody, all different colors. We got people from all these different even continents. And we got people that, one lady that lived in a gated community, and then we had people that were pretty much on the street. And they were all together, and it really, pretty amazing experience with all of us together. Okay, so you're here. You end up getting married.
Yes.
And that was fun. That was
amazing.
That was a neat celebration. But then you had relapse. You ended up having a relapse. First we had an amazing young man, right?
Yeah, my little man, Jackson, and I mean, I'm here to share my testimony, be completely honest. So hopefully, even if it just helps one person, get a little bit of hope. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like you said, we had my son, Jackson Allen Ebola, my little mini-me, and to be honest, like, what I realized is I stopped working on myself, because a lot of people I believe that a lot of people come to Christ and they think that, the grass is greener on the other side. They think that it's just going to be easy, but it's not. You have to continue building yourself with Christ. Mm-hmm. You have to continue staying in His Word. You have to be diligent, because the enemy is always going to be right there waiting. Mm-hmm. So what I realized is that I was working, and I got a place for me and Justine to move into after we got married, and it's a lot, like I've never had to do that before with the lifestyle I was living. I never had to provide for a family.
So you've got responsibilities you never had before. And so it really weighed on you, right? I remember you talking about that. Okay.
And then what I didn't realize is I was spending so much time worrying about paying bills and worried about providing for Justine and living life that I forgot to put Christ first. So then when my son came, and some people might look at me like, that's messed up, but this is my truth, and it was right after Jackson was born, right after Jackson was born, I felt like this. I felt like, I guess at that time I was defining myself by Justine because I wasn't spending enough time with Christ. I started to spend more time with Justine, and I wasn't putting Christ first. So then when Jackson was born, and now all of Justine's attention is going to Jackson, I'm sitting here by myself, and because I was so weak in my spirit, and I just felt like defeated, I turned back and I started relapsing.
Okay.
And I turned back to drugs, and then, I know I've been honest with you about that. I told you, and there's been a couple relapses, and my last one was 390 days ago. So I have a little.
I know you showed me that. That's so cool. So 390 days ago.
Yes.
Okay.
390 days.
Okay. So there really was, and there is for somebody that with your experience and the fact that you really, I'm putting words in your mouth maybe a little bit, but it's like you could always run from your problem.
Yeah.
And now to suddenly have the responsibility that you had not only of a wife, but a little boy that you had to take care of and paying all the bills. It's like it did. I don't want to give excuse to you, but it's like that's a lot for somebody that's never ever had that experience before.
Oh, and let me share one more thing before we skip from there, okay? Like you said, it's a lot. Someone never had that before. But I didn't share this part. When I graduated Day to Care, when I was there for 19 months, I ended up becoming the lead counselor at the program. You know,
that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So, you know, a skinhead that came to this program, that came to know Christ, you know what I mean, and ended up building a relationship with these people, you know, and they're still family today, still like my family today. And I ended up becoming one of the lead counselors there, you know, and like I had a caseload of 25 clients. That's another thing. When me and her got married, when she was pregnant, I was working at Dare to Care. So then when I wasn't working on myself, you know, and with Christ, I was helping other people and counseling other people, and I got to hear about drugs all the time. So that's another thing, you know, that the enemy used to bring me back, you know?
Okay. So it became a temptation, it's like, oh, I remember. So it's almost, you remember, I don't want to say the glory days, but you remember just the feeling.
Yeah.
And so you're the longing for that feeling again and not realizing the repercussions of that feeling. Okay. So you're 390 days sober now. So you're back, you're working.
Yes.
You're doing just amazing, climbing up the ladder there.
Yes.
And so let's just talk about some of this. Like now, really, you guys have, you've done some youth ministry for us. You lead our home church group, one of our home group church groups, and you lead a men's group now.
Yes.
Now, this is interesting to me. It's like we were talking about this. Like, tell me some of the guys that are in your men's group. Okay, remember, it's like, this is a skinhead, ex-skinhead. And so now the guys that are in your group, tell me about them.
All right. I remember for years, you know, like when I came to know Christ, you know, I don't know. I asked my wife for so long. It's like, man, I was just praying for men, you know, like just to have relationships with men, you know, to fit in, to go out and do things with, right? And I never realized, because like, if you don't pay attention, you might miss how God is answering your prayer. You know, because we pray to God and we ask him for certain things. And then in our head, we already have a preconceived notion of how he's going to answer it. But God, you know what I mean? Like, he'll answer it in his own way. And if we don't pay attention, if we're not diligent, we'll miss it. So then to go to my men's group, right? It's crazy because an ex-skinhead, white guy, right? And then I have Larry, he's a black guy, right? And then I have Eddie, he's a Mexican guy. And then I have Alfredo, you know, he's a Salvadorian. And it's crazy because Salvadorian and Mexicans don't get along.
No, they don't get along. People don't realize that they really don't like each other. Okay.
Yeah. So it's just crazy, you know, because I finally realized after all these years, you know, like of praying for this, I've known Christ because I got saved in 2014, you know, so after praying for this all these years, you know, like I feel like I've missed some of the things, you know, because I remember God had put people in my life before this, but I couldn't find that connection. So then I let it dwindle away, basically, you know, and then now to have this men's group and just to see the relationships flourishing and us building the relationships and me talking to my wife, and she pointed out one day, she's like, babe, this is what you've been praying for. And then I just had to accept it, you know, and like now that I've accepted, it's like, man, the relationships that I have with them, I really think these are the healthiest, best relationship I've ever had in my life with other men. And it's amazing.
Yeah, it's so amazing. And they're a good group of guys too. Yes. I really like all those guys. They're a blast to hang around. Yeah. They're hilarious. So that's what and I just want to finish up with like, so your close friends now aren't white.
No, they're not.
So that's the transition that happens in what Jesus Christ can do. It's like we laughed about it earlier, and I came from Baptist roots, and the old story is if you get 2 Baptists, you get a prayer meeting, and if you get 3 Baptists, you get a church split, because we always find reasons to separate ourselves.
Yes,
it is much more difficult to say, okay, what do we need to do to come together, and of course your testimony is a testimony of what Jesus Christ can do to break. Yes. We talk about breaking dividing walls of hostility, which is in Ephesians chapter 2. He really, truly does that. It's like that's, people are talking about all these things that we need to do. It's like the key ingredient is a relationship with Jesus Christ, because he's the one that breaks barriers and walls and gets a tattered up city boy to hang out with me, and not just to hang out. It's like we love one another, we care for one another. It's like he Justine, is like, they're our family. They're part of what our family is. So that's what we want to give to you. It's like, our hope really truly is in Jesus Christ. Is there anything you want to throw in? Anything else you want to add?
I just wanted to share this one thing, with everything that's going on now, like you said, an ex-skinhead, I was there, I'm working on my mom's car at the house, right? And we had Carly's prom party over the house the other day, so I had to push my mom's car on the street. So then I'm going to push it back up the driveway.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm going to push it back up the driveway, and I could be honest, it's a lot harder to push up a driveway than it is to push down a driveway, right? So Justine's in the driver's seat, and I'm pushing. I'm out there in my tank top, a tatted up white boy, right?
Yeah.
And cars are driving by because I live off a busy street. Cars are driving by, and then I hear a car stop, and I see somebody jump out, and it's a Mexican guy. So then he's like, here, you need some help here, let me help you. And then here comes a black guy running up the street to come help me. Wow. So it's like seeing my wife took the picture, and I did share it on Facebook, and she took the picture of me in the middle, and then a Mexican guy and a black guy on the sides of me, and they just helped pushing me. And I just want to share, with the audience that that's what we need more of, like it's not about color, it's about helping our brothers and sisters in Christ. It's about being there for people in need, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to love on one another and share the love of Christ. And that's what I believe Christ was showing me at that moment, in the midst of everything, multiple cars passed me, and look who stopped to help me. It's not about color. It's about loving on one another and being there for people in need when they need help.
I love that. And it just throw into it, it's like our differences is really what enhance us.
Yes.
Don't use it as a separation. Use that as something that really draw us together. So we're praying peace over you, peace over our city, peace really over our nation. Really and truly, it's only through a relationship with Jesus Christ that we can be brought together again. And so that's what our prayer is. That's what Justin I wanted him to share today. And so I hope you've been blessed by it. If you want to know more, go ahead and email. The email will be right there on the video. And feel free to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And this is Scott, and we've been Podcast at the Lab. We'll see you next time.